10 Reasons to Support Animal Rights and Their Explanation by Tom Regan. The philosophy of animal rights is 1. Rational. It is not rational to discriminate arbitrarily, and discrimination against non-human animals is arbitrary. It is wrong to treat weaker human beings, especially those whose IQs are below what is considered normal, as tools or renewable resources or models or commodities. It cannot be correct, therefore, to treat other animals as if they were tools, models, and the like, if their psychology is as rich or greater than that of those humans. To think otherwise is irrational. Describing an animal as an extremely complex physical-chemical system is undoubtedly perfectly correct, except that the animal's animality disappears. E. F. Schumacher. 2. Scientific. Animal rights philosophy is respectful of our best science in general, and evolutionary biology in particular. The latter teaches that, in Darwin's words, humans differ from many other animals in degree, not in gender, fundamental issues leaning to one side. It is obvious that animals used in laboratories bred for food and hunted for pleasure, for example, have our brand of psychology. This is not fantasy, this is fact, proven by our best science. There are no fundamental differences between humans and large mammals in their mental faculties. Charles Darwin. 3. Unprejudiced/impartial. Racists are people who think that members of their race are superior to members of other races simply because the former belongs to the superior, their race. Sexists believe that members of their own sex are superior to members of the opposite sex simply because the former belongs to their own, the superior, sex. Both racism and sexism are unbearable paradigms of intolerance. Racial and sexual differences are biological, not moral differences. The same is true of speciesism, the view that members of the species Homo sapiens are superior to members of all other species simply because humans belong to their own superior species, since there are no superior species to think otherwise, is to be no less prejudiced than a racist or a sexist. If you can justify killing to eat meat, you can justify ghetto conditions. I can't justify either. Dick Gregory. 4. Fair. Justice is the highest principle of ethics. We are not here to commit or allow injustice so that good things can come. We are not here to violate the rights of a few so that the majority can benefit. Slavery allows this. Child labour allows this. Most examples of social injustice allow this, but not the philosophy of animal rights, whose highest principle is that of justice. No one has the right to benefit as the result of the violation of the rights of another, whether the other is a human being or any other animal. The reasons for legal intervention on behalf of children apply just as strongly in the case of these unfortunate slaves, the other animals. John Stuart Mill. 5. Compassionate. A full human life demands feelings of empathy and sympathy. In a word, compassion. For the victims of injustices, be they human or other animals, the philosophy of animal rights calls for and its acceptance promotes the growth of the virtue of compassion. This philosophy is, in Lincoln's words, the path of a complete human being. Compassion in action may be the glorious possibility that could protect our multitudinous polluted planet. Victoria Moran. 6. Generous. The philosophy of animal rights demands a commitment to serve those who are weak and vulnerable, those who, whether human or other animals, lack the ability to speak up and defend themselves, and who are in need of protection from greed. Human and tough. This philosophy requires the commitment, not because it is in our own interest to give it, but because it is right to do so. This philosophy therefore calls for, and its acceptance promotes the growth of, selfless service. We need a moral philosophy where the concept of love, so rarely mentioned today by philosophers, can once again be central. Iris Murdoch. 7. Promoter of personal fulfillment. All the great traditions in ethics, religious and secular, emphasize the importance of 4 things: knowledge, justice, compassion and autonomy. The philosophy of animal rights is no exception. This philosophy teaches that our choices should be based on knowledge, should be expressive of compassion and justice, and should be made freely. It is not easy to achieve these virtues, or to control the human inclinations towards greed and indifference, but a complete human life is possible without them. The philosophy of animal rights appeals to both, and their acceptance promotes the growth of self-fulfillment. Humanity is not a dead external precept, but a living impulse from within. not a self-sacrifice, but a self-fulfillment of one's own desires. Henry Salt. 8. Socially progressive. The greatest impediment to the prosperity of human society is the exploitation of other animals by human hands. This is true of unhealthy diets, of the usual reliance on the whole animal model in science, and of the many other forms that animal exploitation takes. And this, for example, is as true as education and advertising, which help diminish the human psyche in the face of the demands of reason, impartiality, compassion and justice. In all of these ways and more, nations fall far behind because they fail to serve the true interests of their citizens. The greatest of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way that it treats its animals. Mahatma Gandhi. 9. Ecologically prudent. The major cause of environmental degradation, including the greenhouse effect, water pollution, and the loss of arable land and humus, for example, can be traced back to the exploitation of animals. This same pattern exists across the whole wide range of environmental problems, from acid rain and the accumulation of toxic waste in the sea to air pollution and the destruction of natural habitats. In all these cases, acting to protect the affected animals, who after all are the first to suffer and die from these environmental diseases, is acting to protect the earth. Until we establish a compassionate sense of kinship between our own species and those fellow mortals who share with us the sun and shadow of life on this dying planet, there will be no hope for other species, no hope for the environment, and no, there will be no hope for ourselves. John Winnie Tyson. 10. Peaceful. The fundamental demand of the philosophy of animal rights is to treat humans and other animals with respect. Doing so requires that we not harm someone just because we ourselves or others might benefit. This philosophy is therefore totally opposed to military aggression. It is a philosophy of peace, but it is a philosophy that extends the demand for peace beyond the limits of our species. Since there is a war going on every day against the millions of non-human animals, to be truly in favour of peace is to be firmly against speciesism. It is wishful thinking that there can be peace in the world if we cannot bring peace to our relationship with other animals. If by some miracle in all our struggle the earth is saved from the nuclear holocaust, only the justice of every living organism will save humanity. Alice Walker.